And welcome to another episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on Stables Media for Monday, November 1st, 2021. We're already in November now, aren't we? Hard to believe, but hey, here we are. So, my opening statement, Halloween may not be for me, but that's behind me. We witnessed an epic game between the Wolverines and Spartans. No matter who came up with a victory in the end, the Lions got smashed by a 2-5 team at home. Cade Cunningham finally made his debut with restricted minutes and scored restricted minutes and scored his first 2 NBA regular season points. And the Red Wings continue to stay red hot other than their regulation loss in Toronto 2 nights ago, which was also close. Ed, we'll start with you and then we'll go to Frank. Ed, you're next. What's your opening statement?
All right, my opening statement is you know what? Saturday sucked. That's my opening statement. Yeah.
I don't blame you there, but Frank, what's your opening statement?
Well, my opening statement, and this is not directed towards you, Ed, because you're actually one of the few rational Michigan fans I know. To pretty much every irrational Michigan fan or alum who wanted to talk so much crap and bring the whole little brother business in, how does that crow taste? Because you got beat for the 10th time in 14 years. You want to talk? You better back it up on the field. And the Lions blow. That's all I'm going to say because I was in attendance. Cade Cunningham, he'll have a big game soon enough. And the Red Wings, close losses, but they're performing a lot better than what they were last year.
They are. Plus, we'll have some Dr. Robert Anderson stuff to talk about. But before we begin, this show is sponsored by the Vig It Sports mobile app, where great fans cover. Use the hashtag GreatFansCover to support that mobile app. Download it on your phone from the Apple App Store or Google Play on your smartphone. Sign up and type in the referral code STABLES with a capital S and the rest of the letters being lowercase, including the letter B in the middle, as in billionaire. That's Stables for Stables Media. Also, a shout out to Cali Tickets. Visit CaliTickets.com or call 877-225-8425 to purchase a ticket to one of their featured events. That's 877-225-8425. Now let's get right at it, shall we? The Michigan State Spartans just edged the Michigan Wolverines 37-33 in East Lansing. Michigan had a 30-14 lead, either in the second quarter or the third quarter. Actually, the third quarter, and Michigan State then came back. Kenneth Walker, 5 touchdown runs, 5. He scored all touchdowns for Michigan State. But Cade McNamara and Peyton Thorne played great games despite turning over a couple times. J.J. McCarthy, a fumble, which really wasn't needed. I thought he was better than that, but he sort of choked, obviously. But it was a good game nonetheless. I liked both teams, no matter who won the game. But hey, it's a good game nonetheless, no matter whose team won. And the better team proved it with their star running back, who is now closer to the running for the Heisman Trophy. But Ed, we'll start with you. You're going to analyze Michigan, and then Frank will analyze Michigan State. So Ed, just vent away, my friend.
Well, I'll say this about Michigan. I think the last thing that any of us expected coming into this game was that Cade McNamara was going to have the game that he had on Saturday. I know people will try to plant that last interception on him. Don't, okay? Without Cade's performance, the way he played in that game, we would have lost by double digits instead of losing by 4. He was outstanding. He was phenomenal. He looked in the zone. He looked in rhythm. He did not look scared. He looked ready to play. He was fighting his guys. Didn't help. It's not his fault that Corum had dropped the touchdown pass or some of that effect. It's not his fault that certain plays did not go a certain way. as I will get to in a little bit with that supposed pass interference that wasn't called, but I'll get to that. Cade McNamara was without question the biggest reason why we were in a position to win that game, why we had a 30-14 lead to begin with, because he was in rhythm, making his throws. He looked far different than what we had seen in previous weeks, and his receivers stepped up. When I say receiving, yeah, his receiver stepped up, whether it be Eric All, whether it be Mike Sanistrell, whether it be Cornelius Johnson, and most especially Adjo Anthony, who, in my opinion, had himself a breakout game in this one. I believe he is a true freshman, but still, he looked like a kid who had 2 or 3 years of experience under his belt. The way he performed on Saturday, he had himself 155 yards. He had both of Cunningham's, or I should say, 2 of the 3 touchdown passes that were thrown through the air. J.J. McCarthy, oh, don't worry, I'll get to his ass in a second. Through the second touchdown to Anthony, things are looking great, right? The offense has looked spectacular. Dominated time of possession, dominated in terms of total yards production. Whatever you want to say. Granted, the running game wasn't as effective as you would have wished it could have, but I give that more credit to Michigan State. With their defense, they stacked the box. They said, listen, we're going to force you to beat us through the air, and I'll be damned if Michigan had not come close to doing that. That was a testament to how they were performing offensively. I can't really necessarily blame them. That yes, they stopped scoring when they should have. Yes, there were instances where they should have settled. They settled for field goals instead of going for touchdowns. But in my opinion, if you have a performance where your quarterback throws for almost 400 damn yards and you score 33 points on the road in a rivalry game, you should win that game. And in my opinion, that has nothing to do with the offense. They did their job. They did what they're supposed to do. Jake Moody did what he was supposed to do. He's still been solid this whole year. My issue with this goes obviously to the defense. Now, I know, don't get me wrong, Kenneth Walker was unbelievable. Let's get that out the way. Let's give him that credit. He deserves it. He deserves more credit of how he performed than, let's say, how the Michigan defense performed, because Kenneth Walker looked like something, I don't know, better than Le'Veon Bell in terms of running back production and efficiency, and in terms of overall offensive production, what he did against Michigan defense. Probably the best performance I have ever seen by a Michigan State Spartan player against a Michigan defense since, 1999 with Plaxico Burress. That's the first thing that came to my mind. Certainly far better than what I saw from Le'Veon Bell or whoever could have been as running back from side, even like from the likes of T.J. Duckett, as far as I'm concerned. That was the best running back performance I'd ever seen from a Michigan State player ever in my time watching this rivalry in terms of us running back against Michigan. And back to the defense, I don't know what the hell happened in the second half. It was like watching something from the last years of Don Brown all over again. I was getting flashbacks. I was getting triggers all over. It's like, oh my God, this is like watching the Ohio State games all over again, because they had nothing for Kenneth Walker. Absolutely nothing. They did their job in terms of containing the passing attack. Taylor, I got to disagree with you slightly about both quarterbacks performed well. No, Peyton Thorne was having a far less of a subpar game compared to Cade McNamara. Number one, he didn't have a single touchdown pass. The only throw that he had that was completed to the end zone was that 2-point conversion play, which was, by the way, a great play made, I believe, by Jalen Reed. But still, when you have a team that, already is had lost one of their efficient, receivers, one of their efficient stars, and Naylor, he went down with an injury, you would think, okay, you could tame things more, but nope. Kenneth Walker had his way with them. It was quite astonishing to see that happen, where every single time where they gave him the ball, he was breaking off a big play. And you would think that Michigan's defense would have been prepared to see that, knew that was coming, but nope. Did nothing for it. Nothing could stop it. So that was one. That was disappointing. And number two, I'll say this. Jim Harbaugh should deserve some credit. He should deserve some of the blame. I'm not going to say, oh, Harbaugh, he should be fired, all this. Like, no. Because for the majority of that game, as far as I'm concerned, he was doing the right things, making the right spots, making the right calls. I will agree that, yes, he played around too much in terms of trying to play QB carousel. This is the one time where, you know what, you got to read the room. There was no excuse to keep putting in J.J. McCarthy the way he did, especially after that first fumble. That was a red herring. That was the sign to say, listen, okay, let's find another spot to put this kid in, not immediately on back-to-back drives when you know, okay, the game could turn on a moment. And the fact that it happened on a drive where Michigan was establishing themselves, trying to move the ball down the field to get another score to put this out of reach, that's when the fumble happened. And I said it on Twitter, JJ McCarthy, I like the kid. He's been terrific, but that was not the right spot for him to be put in that game like that. And instead of him coming up to Roses, instead, he came up looking like a goat. And I don't mean goat as in greatest of all time either. In fact, I said on Twitter, like, I have a new alias, a new nickname for him until further notice, or until I'm less pissed off at him anymore, and that's Jared Goff. And it should be self-explanatory. Two crucial, key, critical fumbles, including one that led to the turnover, which turned into the game-winning points for Michigan State. You can't do that. You cannot do that in a rivalry game, which is going to give the other team something to chomp at, because they had that game in control. They had it, and they literally fumbled it away. I know Michigan fans will say, oh, what about the pass interference? I get it. Yes, Cornelius Johnson, his jersey got held completely. Absolutely. That should have been a flag all day, every day. But guess what? You still got the ball back. The rest made up for that with a roughing the passer penalty. And when it came down to it, you just choked. You flat out choked. And another thing that I'm not completely blaming that last interception on McNamara, Bradley, the defensive player from Michigan State, had a absolutely phenomenal play. He flat out one-handed, I'm talking Odell Beckham, or if you want to be more relevant, he did a Charles Woodson in reverse. The way he pulled that pass off to get that last interception to seal that game was remarkable. I got to give him credit for that. Got to give Michigan State credit for that. And you know what? Mel Tucker's got to deserve credit too, because he was able to make the adjustments necessary at halftime, clearly more so than Jim Harbaugh could have done. And, I'll just say Saturday sucked. I'm going to reiterate it. It was horrible to watch, knowing that, hey, I had to then go in and work a 12-hour overnight shift after that. That did not feel well on my subconscious for all Saturday. So between all that, yeah, bad day for me, but I'm sure a great day for you, Frank. And now it's at a point where Michigan, you're essentially 2 games behind Michigan State, because this will be considered one of the tiebreaker situations if you ever finish this the season tied in the standings. So if you're Michigan, now you have the unenviable task of trying to root for Michigan State, or root for a team to beat Michigan State. Namely, that could mean rooting for either Ohio State and or Penn State to do the job, because to get the job done, because you couldn't get it done yourself. So yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say about that, and I don't want to speak about it anymore. Frank?
Well, Ed, I'm not going to gloat at you, like I said earlier, because you're actually one of the very few rational Michigan fans that I know. But there's a few things I want to hit on. First, obviously my team, Michigan State. I will say that, yes, I was very happy. They were down by 16 points in the third quarter, but as Mel Tucker keeps said, they kept chopping and kept chopping. And Kenneth Walker, I have never seen a performance like that out of a Michigan State football player. I mean, I think that's better than Plaxico Burress in 99 or TJ Duckett in 2001 in this rivalry series. I would put this kind of on the level of LeBron James in some NBA finals where it's a must-win situation where he's like, you give me that effing ball and good things will happen.
I'll give you a perfect example. Game 5 against the Pistons, 2007. Enough said.
So I didn't need to trigger that bad flashback for you, Ed. My apologies.
Thanks.
I was kind of thinking more like 2013 against the Spurs, but I digress. But anyways, I mean, you have to get. I think Kenneth Walker pretty much put everyone I know says, "Hey, I can put this team on my back, and I want my seat in New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony." And I would say he's got a good chance to get to New York. I'm not saying he's going to win it, but I think he's probably Michigan State's best chance to have a Heisman winner since Lorenzo White. Right, so yeah, he pretty much did everything in that game because Peyton Thornton didn't have a great game. Threw 2 early interceptions. I mean, the second one I don't think was really his fault. That got tipped at the line, and I believe it was Mike Morris who came down with it. But again, he was, yeah, but he was. I mean, he made some key throws. That 4th down throw to Jalen Naylor, which set up Kenneth Walker's second touchdown of the game. And he had a couple of nice throws to Jaden Reed, 2-point conversion to Trey Mosley, another one to Reed as well. Well, he made plays when it counted. And this is the type of game where you have to be able to make winning plays at critical times. And that's going to lead me to talk about Michigan a little bit. And Ed, feel free to chime in whether you agree or disagree with me. I thought Cade McNamara balled out on Saturday. I was like, where did this come from? He took his game to another level. And if I was playing for Michigan State, Cade would be the first guy I'd walk up to, shake his hand, say, "Kid, you got game. I respect that." But what I don't get is, why is Jim Harbaugh still playing this quarterback roulette with J.J. McCarthy? Is there something deeper there that might lie in? McCarthy's family putting some heat on him? I'm not saying there is because I don't have any proof, but you can't help but wonder there could be something that lies deeper. Guy throws for almost 400 yards, has a career day, and you decide, oh, we're going to take you out mid-series. J.J. McCarthy is not Tim Tebow. The whole Chris Leak, Tim Tebow thing, that's 15 years ago. Different time, different era, different coach, different system.
Hell, it's not even Drew Henson. It's not even Drew Henson, Tom Brady even.
Right,
Exactly.
McCarthy's still a freshman too.
Yeah, and I'm not saying J.J. McCarthy is a bad quarterback. I think he's going to be good, but you don't basically put him in mid-drive in a big game, in a big moment, and say, here you go, kid, sink or swim. I get
Especially
it if Cade was injured.
Right.
Because I know there was a point where he was in the tent, which I've kind of got my suspicions about that too, because I've heard conflicting reports saying that it happened before the fumble. Some say it happened after. Who knows what the heck's going on there. But Harbaugh definitely deserves some criticism for the way he's handled this situation. And I'm beginning to wonder, is it going to carry over in other games? Because God forbid, Ed, that this happens against Ohio State and you might be leading the Buckeyes.
Right, that's going to be one-sided, no doubt.
Yeah, but again, there's a blame. And also, making winning plays in key moments. You get into the red zone, you got to get touchdowns.
Scored a touchdown.
You can't settle for field goals. I mean,
as good as Jake Modi is, he's kicked too many of them.
Best kicker in the Big Ten. I have said that many a time. But that doesn't mean you can't rely on him to bail you out when your offense stalls. You got to come with touchdowns. As Herm Edwards once said, you play to win the game.
Hello.
The time where you should have Jake Moody out is if you need a game-tying field goal or a game-winning field goal, or if he's kicking an extra point. You don't have another. And now, the next part I'm going to get to, officiating. And I saw many a Michigan fan on Twitter, some of who we detest here very much, most notably Ryan Ermani, was complaining, oh, the refs screwed us. We lost because of the refs. Let me tell you something.
Oh, God.
That fumble that was overturned, Peyton Thorne's shin was on the ground.
Yep. I looked at that. That was don't get me wrong. Hell of a play by Ojabo. Hell of an awareness by Hutchinson, who, by the way, I forgot to make mention, those two were absolute studs in that one. I feel so bad for them, too, because their efforts put Michigan as much in the strong contention, strong shape to win as much as anybody. But, yeah, go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, and also I wouldn't mind seeing either of those two on the Lions in the future. We'll get to that later. But also, you complain about that. You know what you had? You still had 2 quarters to make plays. You didn't do it. The pass interference thing. I mean, look, what I saw, I'd probably have to watch it again. I did see a hand on Cornelius Johnson's jersey, but unless you're really right up close, you really got to watch for that jersey grab, because I've been an official in that position before, and I'm looking for a clear grab from where I'm at. And if a coach complains about it, sometimes you just got to say, hey, I didn't see it the way you did. Let's just keep playing. And you still had a chance to win the game. And what happened? Throw an interception. You can't be complaining about officiating, especially when there was somebody from Michigan, I forget who it was, actually grabbed Kenneth Walker by the neck and tried to choke him. No call there. And Cal Halliday getting held a lot. No call there.
Right.
I mean, look, calls aren't going to go your way in games like this. You know what you got to do? Play better.
Keep playing.
Simple as that.
Yep.
Overcome adversity.
That's pretty much all I have to say.
I thought, there's the thing. You just perfectly mentioned that, Taylor. Overcoming adversity. We thought they had learned that by now, saying how they played against Wisconsin, saying how they played against Nebraska. You thought, okay, these are the narratives that we've always said about Michigan teams in the Harbaugh era. Looks like they're starting to finally overcome them, right? Wrong. It took one damn game to go right back to the well with those same narratives. And quite frankly, I don't blame people for coming up for saying or repeating them, because that was a game where you could have further stomped those narratives down. Instead, you resurrected them more than ever. And, that was just horrible. Horrible to see unfold before my eyes. It's not the ref's fault that you blew a 16-point lead. It's not the ref's fault that J.J. McCarthy fumbled the damn ball, okay? Right. There's other things to point at and say that cost you the game more so than the officiating. So just stop with that, Michigan fans. Stop it.
Yes.
Let the church say amen, Ed.
Yeah, STFU Michigan fan base. That's why I hate Michigan fans mostly, especially the ones that are just homers, if you know what I'm saying.
I could name plenty of them. Thankfully, I at least know rational ones like Ed. And there's a few others out there, too. Those are the only ones I will actually talk to and I can have intelligent conversations with.
Yeah,
I mean, listen, it got so bad to the point where I think not just Ryan Armani got called out, but there's like three or four contenders in my view. I know this is usually safe for pros, but this week at base, we have a contender for locale of the week from the Michigan side. But I would say that, but I don't want to steal from your urinating tree. But if I would say the nominees would be Taylor Lewan, Ryan Armani, Braylon Edwards. And by extension, his dad, yes, Daddy, Big Dad Stan, calling in the 97-1, trying to throw a temper tantrum. This is what you said about my son. You're not doing your job. Blah, 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 blah. Bro, stop it. Your son said some shit, and he made himself look like an ass. Stop it.
Yeah. And then for example, that Braylon doesn't know anything about MSU's defense. Even
come on,
Stoney
bro.
and Jansen mentioned Jacob Penn. There you go.
It takes 5 to 10 seconds to do a Google search. Come on, Braylon. Like, I love you. I always love you for 2004, but like, come on, man. That was not a good look for you. Not a good look for the fan base overall. And the fact that your dad had to call in to defend you today. You're a grown ass man. Your dad should not be doing this shit for you now. Stop it.
Right.
And you took the words right out of my mouth.
And this is not the first time that Braylon Edwards was acting like a homer. No. Remember 2017 with his argument about the rain with Mike Valenti after Michigan State at Michigan?
Don't remind me of that crap. Oh
man. This year there was no rain in East Lansing. I'll bet there was no rain in Ann Arbor, even when that didn't take place in Ann Arbor. Instead, it took place in East Lansing, and that.
There was admittedly some weather, but that was not the sole reason. Okay,
no.
Both teams played as fine as possible during whatever rain showed up. It's called the better team showed up. They performed better. They handled the adversity better, and they won. Simple.
Yep, they did, and you can't blame anybody. And you can't blame anybody for that interception. The throw was on target. The receiver was there. He was going to catch it. It was wide open. But
That was Jordan.
Yeah.
That was Jordan Lewis versus Wisconsin. Only it happened to us instead of the other way around. You can't hate on that. That was a great effing play made by the defender. There's nothing else you could do about that. Michigan State
Charles
deserved that
Brantley.
win. They earned that win. It was an epic game with an epic conclusion. Got no bones admitting that Michigan State, they were the better team. But my God, Michigan, they had some chances to close that out, and they did not. So that's equal parts choke as it was comeback.
Right. And that was the play of the game.
About Braylon Edwards, guys.
Yep.
This is the same Braylon Edwards who on his whatever Woodward sports show he does with Reiner Monty. I've never watched it, don't plan to, because it seems like a lot of him go blue hour.
It's basically a counter program to 97-1.
Yeah. And Edwards came out and said that there were Michigan State fans calling for Mel Tucker to be fired and calling him racial slurs. And he didn't produce one shred.
Right. Where's your
credible
proof?
Evidence to prove it? And then my reaction is, Braylon, show me where that happened. I will be the first person to show up with matchsticks and gasoline and burn those people to the ground because they do not represent the Michigan State fan base. And I would never stand for that. But the fact that you want to go bring it up and then call anyone who asks for proof a peon, you got some growing up to do. Especially, maybe that's why you had to have Daddy call in and defend you.
Like as the late Whitney Houston said, "Show me the receipts." He didn't, and we know why, because it was bullshit.
Exactly. So, with that being said, Michigan State has moved up to 5th, and Michigan has dropped down to 9th. Now, Michigan is still in the top 10 for one reason. They played their hearts out too, just like Michigan State did. And we expected this to be a close game too. So that being said, Michigan is still in the top 10. Michigan State is in the top 5. And the college football playoff rankings, I think they still show Michigan State at 5th, don't they?
I don't know if they've come out yet, or they don't come out until tomorrow.
They come out
usually
tomorrow. Thank you.
Yeah, they usually release those on Tuesdays.
Yes, Tuesdays. I remember now. Yes.
Yeah, and tomorrow night's the first official ranking, first reveal of the first rankings.
Yeah. By the way, I caught that Stanley Edwards called a Stonian Jansen.
My goodness.
On Bleacher Report, and I listened to it. I was like, "What? My God!"
I face palmed. I was so cringe, and it's like it's like when Stan was trying to talk smack or trying to be condescending towards Jansen of all people, like dude, that's your fellow Wolverine. Why are you doing that? What reason for you to act like that, to behave like that? Now trust me, it's not surprising now. It's in hindsight, it's looking like, okay, like father, like son, because that sounds like some kind of crap that Braylon would pull or Braylon would say or how he would act in response to that. So it's not really a surprise now.
Right. So moving on to the upcoming games. First off, for the Michigan State Spartans, like I mentioned before, they play the Purdue Boilermakers, but what I didn't mention is the times and telecasts. Saturday at 3:30 on ABC. So we're going to begin with it, and then we're going to begin with Frank to back up even more with the Viget analysis and scoring predictions. Ed, you're up first. Go right ahead.
All right. In terms of what to expect for this one, is there a chance for up-down theory? Whereas Michigan State, they've just had the game of their life. They're exhausted. They're spent. They put in all their energy into that game, and now can we expect a come-down theory? I don't expect to see that as much. I will still at least expect to see Peyton Thorne have a bit of a bounce-back game. I would still see Kenneth Walker continue to have his production, build his case for the Heisman. And, in terms of Purdue's defense, I don't see them finding much ways to stop Michigan State. Granted, yes, they had the great performance against Iowa, but then they followed it up by that stinker against Wisconsin. Now, I know they did get the win last week against Nebraska, but I think this is a far far different in a way, a better team that they're going to be facing. I think this is going to be the best team that they faced, even more so than Iowa this year, and I truly believe that. As much as I want to be an ass and just selfishly say that, yeah, I'm going to pick Purdue to win because I need Michigan State to lose. I'm going to be reasonable and say that, this is a 3.5 point spread so far. I'll say MSU. Okay, around that type of point spread. I'd say MSU, they get it done. My bigger predicted score is going to be Michigan State 28, Purdue 17.
28-17 State, says Ed. All right. That's really good to hear. Frank, your turn.
This is a classic trap game, and I see a lot of similarities to 1999 because Michigan State had to go down to West Lafayette after beating Michigan and East Lansing that year. And, of course, they were without Gary Scott, one of their receivers. This year, they beat Michigan in a close game, instant classic, and they might be without Speedy Naylor, another receiver. And, of course, Purdue, I mean, granted, Drew Brees ain't walking through that door. Neither is Vinny Sutherland or any other of those guys who were on that 99 team. But this is still kind of tricky. David Bell is one of the top receivers in the conference, and they have a defensive end. His last name escapes me. I know his first name is George, and they call him the Greek Sack King because he is a menace. And I'm really worried that if he lines up against Jared Horst or A.J. Arcuri or whoever Mel Tucker rotates in at tackle, I wish he wouldn't do that. I digress. That he's going to cause problems. But that said, I think Mel Tucker is going to keep this team focused, and they're going to go out and take care of business as long as they hold on to the football and don't turn it over constantly. I'm expecting another big game from Kenneth Walker. I think I'm not saying he's going to put 200 yards on the board, but I think he's going to be able to sustain drives, still have Jaden Reed to throw the ball to, who Trey Mosley's going to have to emerge, and someone else will have to emerge if Speedy Naylor can't play. There's options there. It's the next man up. That said, I think Michigan State wins, I'll say 31-27, and late touchdown from Kenneth Walker to make it a double-digit game. Purdue might score to get within 4, but it'll be too little too late. So that's my Viget score prediction. 31-27, Michigan State.
All right, 31-27, Michigan State, says Frank. 28-17, Michigan State, says Ed. I'm going to go Michigan State 30 and Purdue 23. I'm trying to arrange it the best I can. So, Michigan Wolverines are going to have to shake off their loss this past Saturday and return home to Ann Arbor to play the Indiana Hoosiers Saturday at 7:30 on Fox. Ed, we'll begin with you again, and then we're going to go to Frank. Ed, what are your Viget analysis and scoring prediction?
My analysis for this is expected to be a bounce back game in every sense of the word for Michigan. Indiana, I grant you, they have given the Wolverines fits every single time they played for the past couple of years. I just don't see it happening at this point for this time around because look at how Indiana has done the last 5 games. They've gotten smashed in 4 of the last 5 games, the 4-game losing streak. We saw what he did against Penn State. We saw what he did against Michigan State, and we saw how he did against Ohio State. Granted, they did have a much better showing against Maryland, but they still lost. Still gave up 38 points. So knowing how that Indiana defense is performing, knowing that, frankly, this should be a pissed-off Michigan team, wanting to make a statement, wanting to get that bad taste out of their mouth from last week's loss, I would expect Harbaugh to not call out the dogs until late in the fourth quarter. So, and now knowing at this point you have to essentially win out your games for even a snip of a chance of getting to Indy, I'm going to say my big predicted score will be Michigan 35, Indiana 7.
Oh, there we go. I would love to see that. You just gotta stop settling for too many Jake Moody field goals. As good as he is, like I mentioned a little while ago. Frank, your turn.
Well, I have a harder time seeing this as being a blowout win for Michigan, and that's because I think it's easier to respond after getting blown out than it is after coming off of a gut-wrenching loss. because I think that's harder to get over because you're thinking, damn, we could have won that game. And now we got to go in and play a team that on paper is not as good, but still you have to stay focused and take care of business. I know Indiana's without Michael Penix Jr., their quarterback. Jack Tuttle, not as mobile as Penix, but he can still sling the ball around. They still have Ty Freifogel and Peyton Hendershot at receiver and tight end. And plus, on defense, Micah McFadden, I think, is probably one of the most underrated linebackers in the conference. And he's going to be someone that's going to be on the field making plays. However, I don't think Indiana's going to be able to slow down the running game. I'm expecting.
You might want to move closer to the window.
And hopefully, the only time where you'll see J.J. McCarthy in is late in the game when it's out of reach after Cade McNamara has taken care of business. So I think, truthfully, Michigan will probably grind out, I'll say, a 38-20 win over Indiana. That's my Viget scoring prediction. 38-20 Michigan.
38-20, says Frank. Ed says 35-7 Michigan. I'm going to go Michigan 38 and Indiana 14. My lucky number, personally, but 38-14 Michigan will still win. So that's Michigan and Michigan State. But before we transition to the pros, Dan Murphy of ESPN writes, former Michigan football players lead protests and call for university president Mark Schlissel by name and head athletic trainer to resign. This is on the Dr. Robert Anderson scandal. So here we go. Roughly 100 protesters marched at the University of Michigan on Tuesday night, calling for the resignations of the school's president and its head athletic trainer. The group, which included former athletes, current students, and others, gathered to voice their disapproval of how the university has responded to the hundreds of former patients who say they were sexually assaulted by former Dr. Robert Anderson during his time as a Michigan employee. A pair of former Wolverine football players who say they were assaulted by Anderson during team-mandated physical exams, John Vaughn and Chuck Christian, have been camping outside of University President Mark Schlissel's home for most of October, asking Schlissel to meet with them. We want him to go, Vaughn told the crowd after they marched to the front of Schlissel's house. Schmidt has worked in the athletic department since the mid-1980s. Former players say Schmidt made jokes about the treatment players received when they visited Anderson and had to, quote, drop their drawers, unquote. Schmidt denied those claims in interviews with police and with the university hired investigators from WilmerHale. He told the investigators that he knew Anderson was conducting rectal exams on players, but he said he, quote, assumed they were appropriate and never thought Dr. Anderson abused any patient, unquote. Protesters carried signs and chanted "Fire Schmidt" on Tuesday night. Current Michigan student Eli Marin, who is a part of the student-led group Michigan Students Against Sexual Assault that organized Tuesday's rally, said their focus for the night was to make sure that their feelings about Schlissel and Schmidt were heard. Schmidt still works here. Why are we letting that happen? He said. We're here today to get him fired. Vaughn, a former running back who was the Big Ten's co-offensive player of the year in 1990, said he wanted to meet with Schlissel when he first started his campus sit-in on October 9th. Christian joined him a week later. Schlissel acknowledged the protesters at a recent board meeting and said he applauded their bravery. A university spokeswoman, Kim Brookhuizen, said Tuesday that it would not be appropriate for Schlissel to meet with the former players due to ongoing litigation. Vaughn and Christian are among hundreds who are suing the university. The school entered into a mediation process last September to try to settle those lawsuits, but no resolution has been reached yet. Oh, sorry, that's my device. Forget that. Alexa, stop. The school entered a mediation process last September to try to settle those lawsuits, but no resolution has been reached yet. Brookhuizen said plaintiffs in the lawsuits can share those stories with university leadership during public board meetings. She said in a statement, quote, since the first reports early last year, our board and president have listened carefully to the survivors of the late Dr. Robert Anderson's abuse. We again thank them for sharing their stories with us directly and through the attorneys many have hired to represent them, unquote. Vaughn and Christian say they want a more personal meeting with Schlissel. Vaughn said Tuesday that he plans to remain on campus for 100 days before reassessing. Tuesday was his 18th day. So, as we go to Ed and then Frank, Ed, do you still think Mark Schlissel had nothing to do with this, or did he have something to do with it?
I don't know if I can have if I have definitive proof that points in either direction, either way. But I will say how it's being handled, how it's being responded to, is been poorly done. I think at the very least, a meeting should have been held by now by each respective parties to at least find some sort of middle ground. It doesn't necessarily have to be, a reconciliation or a settlement or something, but at least a starting process. Just sit down with the guy. What was so wrong about that? It's because the further you let this continue and go on and go on and go on, it's not going to go away by itself. It's going to be a constant reminder for you unless you handle this the right way that you're supposed to. And I get that Schlissel, what he's stated that he's going to step down as president in 2023, 2024, one of those years. I think if this keeps up, it's going to have to be much sooner than that because it's not going to go away by itself unless the most important people in charge step up to the plate and have a full disclosure in terms of meeting with the right people, meeting with the right parties, and getting this settled out as much as they humanly can.
Yeah, that's exactly their objective. Frank, you're up next. What do you think?
I pretty much have to agree with Ed here. I mean, I don't think it's being handled correctly. They should have sat down and had a meeting with Schlissel, or he should have invited them in and says, hey, let's talk this out. We're adults here and get this all taken care of in a timely manner. But I do think it's going to lead to his resignation coming sooner rather than later. I believe his contract is up in 2023, and he said that after that he's done. But I would be shocked that if he completes his term.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're going to keep our eyes on this. This is definitely far from over. Still a developing story. Now we transition to the pros. The Detroit Lions get destroyed by the Philadelphia Eagles, 44-6. The Eagles came in 2-5. The Lions, of course, winless, but it was at home, except Ford Field didn't even nearly have a full house. And of course, that's because the Lions did not want to see Jared Goff play in a Lions uniform ever again. So, man, just ugly. The defense was nowhere, and so was the offense until they finally got on the board late in the fourth quarter in garbage time, way down in the dumps. So the Lions dropped to 0-8. Eagles are 3-5. They've shown that they're actually not tanking. So this looked more like a non-tank bowl game. Just absolutely ugly. Ed, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to Frank. Just let your heart out, my friend.
Trust me, I pretty much let out what I need to let out, ranting about the Michigan game. So this one was just a formality. Like, I knew more than likely this team was going to lose to the Eagles, but I was expecting to see more effort. I was expecting to see more heart. I was expecting to see something other than that. I don't know what that was, but that sure as hell wasn't any effort or any heart or any of those intangibles that I've mentioned. That was an embarrassment. That was disgusting. That was ugly with a capital U. And the fans, I'm surprised that there weren't even more fans that didn't show up, because this is the same crap that's been happening all year. And once again, it starts at the top, not with your coach, with your quarterback. when you have a quarterback that is seemingly not having the proper awareness of knowing when to step up in the pocket as opposed to stepping back, which means is going to put himself in danger of getting sacked more so often than not. If you have a quarterback that once again threw the ball away on a fourth down, if you have a
10-11.
quarterback still, regardless of the distance, the fact that he did it again in this game, I think more than once, I believe, the fact that you have all of that working against you, you know how bad your defense is. For some reason, your offense hasn't been able to establish the run. Your receivers are garbage. It's just an all-around mess. It really is. And the fans, I give them credit, the ones that do show up, I give them credit for having the energy to boo at least. But at some point, what other message has to be sent? More people not showing up, potential blackouts happening. Although I don't see that.
How about
happening.
selling the team?
Yeah, good luck on that. While Martha's still alive, good luck with that. But it's just depressing, really, when you think about it. And now you got to go into the bye week. You're officially 0-8. You're now at the halfway mark of the potential imperfect season part 2. And look at your upcoming schedule. You don't have another winnable game, in my view, until Thanksgiving. And that's barely, because I still expect the Bears to be favored in that game. And listen, I know that Jared Goff has been terrible, but I don't think David Blau is going to be the solution either, because he's a backup for a reason. And you saw how he performed whenever he got the chance, whenever Stafford went down. Not good. He had one good touchdown pass on Thanksgiving. That was it. Other than that, he's been trash as well. So I don't know what you can do with the quarterback situation. I don't know who you got to call, who you got to make contacts to. I don't know. But this may be a situation where come next April, your hand will be forced to draft a quarterback instead of waiting till 2023, because it is just it's beyond tiresome to talk about. Oh, what's wrong with this team? What do they need fixing? What ails them? It's clearly plain as day what this team needs and what needs fixing on this team. And I'm not going to just beat a dead horse every week saying, "Oh, the quarterback." We know what it is. So until we get that fixed, situated first and foremost, then that's when I'll start to feel a little bit better about this team. It is just depressing, man. And yeah, what else there needs to be said about that?
Yeah, Frank, not much to follow up about this, right?
Well, I think depressing is an understatement, especially since I was there. A friend of mine got tickets, and I ended up going just, have a good time and all.
My condolences to you, Frank.
Well, we left it. We ended up leaving after the first half because we ended up getting club seats, and we just went and got some food, sat down, had some food and drink. Actually ran into a good friend of mine who's a fellow basketball coach, and got to talk to him for a minute. And then we just left and went to MGM and just sat at the sports book and watched all the other action going on. But yeah, it was depressing. There was nothing there on the offense, nothing there from the defense.
Nothing there on the special teams.
Yes, that.
Austin Seibert missed a field goal.
Yeah, on their first drive, I saw that. And I was like, yeah, this ain't going to end well. It was bad. And seeing that Ford Field was seemingly almost half empty, I was like, how is this game not blacked out on local TV? But, that's another topic for another time. And, I had always had this thought in the back of my mind that this could happen. Well, now that it's happened after losing to a bad Philadelphia team, 0-17 is realistically on the table. I don't see another winnable game on the schedule. And I know you mentioned the Bears on Thanksgiving, but you know what? At least the Bears have something there, and they're at least going to.
What about the Broncos? The Broncos have been trash. How about them?
And they did just trade Von Miller away. Give the Rams continue to get richer. Jeez.
Oh, don't get me started on the Rams, who just at the same time as the Lions were getting destroyed, they were putting the same number of points on the Texans. I was like, oh my goodness, you talk about a tale of two cities. We have Matthew Stafford once again putting himself at the forefront of the MVP race while we
In
are on
LA.
the verge.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
in Houston.
while we are on the verge of going over in terms of winless games again. You couldn't have scripted it even better. My God.
Yeah, the LA
Yeah.
Rams definitely won that trade unanimously. So Ford Field, if and when the Ford family sells the Lions, which might not be anytime soon, should Ford Field have its name changed? I say yes, and it should change its name to MHSAA Field. That's the best name I can come up with. Name change, the best name change I can come up with, because Ford Field right now currently also hosts the state championship games, divisions 1 through 8, in 11-player.
And they also host the individual state finals for wrestling as well. But
Oh, yeah.
Do they now?
as someone who actually has some contact with the Michigan High School Athletic Association, they do not have that kind of budget to put their naming rights on an NFL stadium. So
Right.
Sorry to shoot your dream down. I would like that name to change, and I'd like the Ford family to GTFO, but that seems to be a pipe dream at this point as long as Martha Ford is still alive and breathing.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's got to be a bigger name than MHSAA. That's true.
Yes. It's got to be an organization that not literally, figuratively prints money.
Right. But speaking of the Bears, they'll have to wait until after the Steelers when the Lions head to Heinz Field Sunday at 1 to take on Mike Tomlin, Ben Roethlisberger, Keith Butler, Juju Smith-Schuster, and others, and the Pittsburgh Steelers Sunday at 1 on Fox. And of course, that's going to be on Fox to make sure I'm right.
Next Sunday, because the Lions got the bye week that's coming up.
The Lions do have the bye
So
week.
it'll be coming up the week after.
Which,
All right.
by the way, you look at the opening spreads, the bye week already has a 10-point opening advantage.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's true. But still, the Lions possibly may still go 0-17 afterwards, regardless. So we're going to wait until next week to preview Lions at Steelers. So cross that off the board for this week. The Pistons.
Spoiler, they're still going to lose. Spoiler.
Yep. Duh. Right. I know. Regardless of how arrogant the Steelers may be, and Urinating Tree has got a good point year after year. But moving on to NBA basketball, the Pistons start 1-5, but their only win was when Cade Cunningham made his debut. In restricted minutes, only got 2.7 rebounds, but injury management, he was out last night in Brooklyn against the Nets. Pistons lost that game, of course, but they beat the Orlando Magic 110-103. Cade Cunningham was really moving the ball. He was a really good passer. Just the rest of the team stepped up. They got the win. Pistons proved why in the NBA there is no winless team ever. So, Ed, not a really bad showing by Cade Cunningham. There's still work to be done. And then Frank is next, but Ed, go right ahead.
Yeah, obvious work to be done for Cade. He only had 2 points, like you mentioned. I think it's a combination of him getting minutes, more and more minutes, and working off rust, because that was literally the first time we've seen him do any type of play since the summer league. Remember, he missed all of the preseason. He was being held out the first few games of the regular season for precautionary reasons, which I understand. But you saw some of that rust being on display. So again, once he gets more minutes, once he gets more chance to get his feet wet, we're going to see that rust go away more and more, and we're going to see more of the efficiency of what Cade can truly bring to the table come out. Because we already see, hey, he can get you 7 rebounds just waking up. But we also know of his passing ability, and just once he gets himself more accumulated and more adjusted to the game, and in terms of working in the pros compared to working college and everything, his points of production will go up. That's no concern. It was just a matter of getting Cade on the floor, letting him get a chance to work off some of that rust, and then by that point, use that to evolve his game over time. With the schedule that they have coming up, it's it's hard to see them win another game until Cleveland, and that's all the way almost 2 weeks from now. So it's gonna be a rough. I wouldn't say rough, but it's gonna be a challenging season for the Pistons in terms of wanting to show that they're a better team than last year. But it all comes down to having the right personnel at that point when you play certain teams, and B, just making the right decisions. So still growing pains, but I still expect to see some form of development for the Pistons this season.
Yep. Me too. Frank, you're up next.
I'll echo what Ed said. I mean, Cade's debut showed some rust, but he still made some nice plays. I think his big game is still yet to come, though. When it happens, I don't know. I mean, as for the Pistons' winnable games, I don't think they beat Milwaukee on Tuesday. Philly, as dysfunctional as they are, I don't think they win there. Probably best chance comes when they go to Houston, and hopefully maybe that'll be Cade's coming out party when he has to go against Jalen Green. So hopefully he'll see a big game there. And if not, it'll probably be against Cleveland. But, it is going to be a bit of a challenge. I know we expect big things of Cade. He comes in thinking, we're going to be back to being a contending team. Stuff like that takes time, people. You have Cade here. He's only one piece to the puzzle. Mm-hmm. He's got to get better, develop, and then down the line, you add more. There's going to come a time where the Pistons will be back in the playoffs and going on deep runs. That's not this year. It'll come. Just have patience.
Yep. And Cade Cunningham will soon heal up to full once the Pistons let Cade Cunningham heal up to full before they even let him play again in the NBA. Pistons home against the Milwaukee Bucks, Philadelphia 76ers, and the Brooklyn Nets, and then at the Houston Rockets and the Cleveland Cavaliers. So the Red Wings, the last team to cover tonight, 4-3-2, 10 points, despite their loss 5-4 in Toronto at Scotiabank Center Scotiabank Arena against the Toronto Maple Leafs. That was a close one too. Just the defense, just defensive breakdowns that kept the Toronto Maple Leafs in the game and in the lead for most of the game. But the Red Wings have done well otherwise. 10 points, like I mentioned before. They have a chance at redemption against the Montreal Canadiens tomorrow at Bell Center. Then they go to the Boston Bruins at TD Garden. And then they go to Buffalo at KeyBank Arena in Buffalo against the Sabres, Jack Eichel and company. And then they get a 4-game homestand against the Vegas Golden Knights, the Edmonton Oilers, the Washington Capitals, Alexander Ovechkin, which the Red Wings beat in overtime last week. Dylan Larkin, the game-winning goal. And then the Montreal Canadiens again, this time at Little Caesars Arena to cap off that 4-game set. Ed, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts in terms of what I've seen the Wings do this week, it's noticeable. They're making developments along the way. You're seeing some players still making contributions, like, for example, Moritz Seider. He had himself another point in the game against the Panthers. I would have liked to see better defense for sure against Toronto. When you score 4 goals, usually that should be enough for you to win, especially when you get one on the power play from Zadina. I've noticed, obviously, improvements amongst their power play unit for sure. They've gotten some goals out of that, much more often than what we've seen all of last year. I think, obviously, it still comes down to having the right pieces in the right places and spots, whether it be goaltending, certain spots in the defense, or whatever. But I like the improvements that I've seen from this team. The fact that they're only, and I know it's still early in the season, but they're only in 3rd place in the division. They're 7 points back of the division leader. So that's a notable improvement, I would say, something to keep an eye out on, and a development season. I would compare this season to what the Red Wings are trying to do this year compared to what we just saw the Tigers do. Nobody's expecting playoffs, but we should see substantial improvement and development amongst their talent and for their team overall, to where they'll have a better record this year as compared to last year. So the fact that they're already in third place already at this early start of the season, should have you confident. But we'll see how it goes from there. There's still a whole lot of season left to play.
Yep, there is. Frank, 72 games left to play after that Toronto game. Still a long season, but the Red Wings off to a good start.
Yeah, I've liked what I've seen so far. I mean, last week we were on there when Lucas Raymond got his hat trick. He's definitely shown what he can be as a key piece of the Geyser plan. And more excited, not only did he get a point against the Panthers, he also got his first career NHL goal as well. So, I mean, you're seeing those two just contributing and being the key building blocks of the franchise. There's still going to be pieces that are going to be moved out and others coming in, though, down the line. Let's see what happens. I mean, I think they should be able to beat Montreal because I think they kind of took them lightly the first time around. And I don't think they're going to beat Boston. Buffalo's been a real surprise, though. And quick programming note, Jack Eichel is not playing. He's dealing with a back injury, and apparently he's in a beef with them, whether he's going to have surgery or not. That he might get traded. Who knows? That's a whole soap opera within itself. But yeah, I'm definitely pleased with what the Red Wings have done so far. As I've said on this show before, they're actually fun to watch again. They're enjoyable. They're on, I'll turn on and say, hey, guys are playing well, contributing. And kind of like Ed said, it's like what we saw with the Tigers last year. Nobody's expecting them to do anything of value late in the year. But you know what? Enjoy the ride. You're seeing hockey be fun again in Hockey Town, as it should be. And it's going to be a time before they're back to contending again. Yep,
that's true. So that's Red Wings, and that's all the teams we covered. Now for the What We've Learned segment, recapping, all of what we've discussed tonight. What I've learned, Jim Harbaugh may be done after his Wolverines lost to Mel Tucker's Spartans, although most of that loss was not his fault. Just the defense had some trouble, although the offense stepped up. As followers of college football in the state already know, Tucker's 2-0 against Harbaugh. The Lions may need ownership soon, but that'll have to wait at least a few years. But otherwise, they just won't pick up. At least the Red Wings and Pistons have already shown that they are both on the rise. And the Dr. Robert Anderson scandal, abuse story, still developing. Who knows what will happen in the future? Ed, what did you learn?
In terms of what I learned, if I'm Michigan State, I would pray to the gods that Mel Tucker stays for as long as possible, because you have found a gem. You have found a diamond in the rough here, especially considering that this was the first coach post Mark D'Antonio. So, yeah, you do whatever you can to keep him, because as long as you keep him, I expect good things, good, bright things to happen for Michigan State in the near future, as long as he remains at the helm. Michigan, it's simple. You have got to find a way to reverse course and save your season from falling off a cliff. I get it. It's only been your first loss of the season. It sounds like overreaction theater, like, oh my goodness, you're going to go off a cliff. But I truly believe that if you don't handle business and at least get to Ohio State with just that one loss, things could go south real quickly. So that'll be something to keep an eye on in terms of what Michigan does. And speaking of Michigan, absolutely agree. The Dr. Anderson story is not going away anytime soon. The sooner that you deal with this, the better. Stop procrastinating, get those damn meetings and deals done. For the Lions, what else is to be said about the Lions? Like they're garbage. They're garbage now. They're going to be garbage again, likely next year. It's just an endless cycle of shit. Moving on. Red Wings, good to see the up and up. Same thing with the Pistons. Hope to see more of Cade. And at least there's some futuristic sense of positivity in terms of looking forward to in regards to our sports teams in this city.
Yeah, but at least they have a new general manager to the Lions. Brad Holmes, he's got some work to do. He'll have some work to do this upcoming offseason.
Oh, you ain't lying. You ain't lying.
Right, because he's going to try to stack the deck full of talent. whether it's the draft or free agency, any position. I don't care.
And you know what? I'll say this: he's got deserved some culpability as well, because he has to see what's going on with his quarterback. He's got to see what Jared Goff has, or frankly has not been doing, and understand that. Listen, money be damned or whatever. We got to find a way to fix this situation ASAP. So I don't know what's going to happen in the offseason, what Holmes could or could not do, but he's got to address that at least in some form of capacity. If you don't do that, you're already starting off on a bad foot.
Right. And that's on Brad Holmes, the upcoming offseason. So, Frank, what did you learn?
What I've learned is this regarding our two college teams in the state. How are they going to respond after getting a big win? Michigan State going on the road to Purdue. I think it's going to be a trap game. I want to see how Mel Tucker can keep them focused. And also, Michigan, are they going to be able to get up off the mat after having a gut-wrenching loss? The Pistons, Cade's time is coming. It hopefully comes sooner rather than later. So hopefully it's going to be big. The Red Wings keep looking better throughout the season. And the Lions just blow.
For this year, yeah. Brad Holmes, like I said before, he's going to have a lot to do this upcoming offseason. But, yeah, Cade Cunningham, like we talked about, has already played one game. But yeah, he'll be back soon enough. So that's what we've learned. And that is the end of our episode. But before we go, this show is sponsored by the VigIt Sports mobile app, VigIt, where great fans cover. Use the hashtag GreatFansCover to support the VigIt mobile sports app. Download it on your smartphone from the Apple App Store or Google Play. Sign up and type in the referral code STABLES with a capital S and the rest of the letters being lowercase, including the letter B in the middle, as in billionaire, for Stables Media. Also a shout out to Mark Goldman and Cali Tickets. Visit CaliTickets.com or call 877-225-8425. That's 877-225-8425 to purchase a ticket to one of their featured events. Gentlemen, excellent job as always. That was a big one that we reeled in here. Our next episode, Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, will preview Lions and Steelers, and of course, Michigan home against Indiana, Michigan State at Purdue, Red Wings, and Pistons, of course. Until then, for Frank Vazner and Ed Smith, I'm Taylor Phillips. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DT2Phillips. Follow Ed Smith on Twitter and Instagram at EdSmith313. And follow Frank Vazner on Twitter and Instagram at Frank_Vazner. And follow the Michigan Sports Truth podcast itself on Twitter and Instagram at Michigan_Truth. Like it on Facebook as the Michigan Sports Truth podcast and follow it on LinkedIn. Thanks very much for listening, watching, downloading, and sharing. And remember, the truth is out there. TTFN, ta-ta for now. Power to the people. Hit them with a Heinz Field case. Stay out of trouble.